Boss mules are the best way to make money inside of MapleStory. And in this video, I'm going to be taking you through the top 10 best boss mules. Just as a side note to start the video off, these boss mules are in no particular order in terms of which one is best to worst, but these are the absolute top 10 best boss mules that you need to have inside of your arsenal when playing MapleStory. So to get the video started, let's talk about Shadower. Shadower is an extremely good boss mule for a few reasons. For the first reason, the nodes aren't extremely hard for this class. It has extremely short cooldowns that deal a ton of damage, which makes it extremely easy to fly through your bosses when on this character. Moving on from Shadower, we're going to talk about Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is a 2-minute class. It does a ton of damage and it has an extremely good burst. You always want to make sure that most of your boss mules are sitting at about a 2-minute cooldown on their burst, because it makes it very easy to fly through all the bosses without having to wait too long for any of your burst skills. Moving on from Demon Slayer, we're going to talk about Bowmaster. Bowmaster is a very good boss mule, arguably one of the best on this list because of how extremely easy the nodes are to obtain and how simplistic the class is overall. This is a hurricane class and it is a 2-minute cooldown as well. The damage output on this class isn't the absolute highest, but it's extremely easy to get most of your damage out on the boss. And with the burst lasting almost 50 seconds, it's extremely easy to go from boss to boss as quick as possible. Moving on from Bowmaster, let's talk about Hero. Hero is also a 2-minute class, but this class has an extremely high output burst. It's extremely easy as well to get most of the damage out when in a boss fight. It's pretty much buff up, use your skills, and then hold down one button and you have almost all of your burst off. This class also has a few cooldowns that make going from boss to boss a little bit easier, and it has a few short cooldown skills that are about 30 seconds. This class's nodes are also very easy, so it makes it an extremely good boss mule to create. Moving on from Hero, we're going to talk about Dawn Warrior. Dawn Warrior is arguably one of the best boss mules in the entire game, mainly because of how strong this class really is. This is a class that doesn't need a ton of funding to do a ton of damage, and it's a very simple class to play as well. Dawn Warrior also excels in bosses like Damien because it can still attack Damien while it does its Cheetos attack in the air. So Dawn Warrior is absolutely a class that you need to create as a boss mule if you want to be efficient. Moving on from Dawn Warrior, we're going to talk about arguably the #1 best boss mule on this list, and that is going to be Buck. Buck is an extremely good boss mule. The damage output on this class is absolutely insane. I would put Dawn Warrior and Buck pretty much neck and neck in terms of which one is best or worst to play. Buck is another class where it's very easy to get a lot of its damage out, and it has a ton of iframes well in burst, so it's very hard to die or mess up the burst in this class. This class also has a skill that allows you to do maximum damage output without even attacking, just as long as you're within the hitbox of the skill. I would 100% recommend making Buck as a boss mule if you already haven't. This class is absolutely insane. Marksman. This is going to be a class that maybe some people have mixed emotions about, but don't get it wrong. This class is extremely good. The part where people are going to be a little bit confused about is the need for attack speed +1 on the inner ability. And as it does help this class's damage output, it's not necessary at all. The damage on this class is insane. And again, the same theme as we talked about before. It's very easy to get a lot of the damage off on this class. That's why Marksman deserves a spot on this list. Moving on from Marksman, we're going to talk about another archer class, and that is going to be Wind Archer. Wind Archer is a hurricane class, and the only downfall that this class really has as a boss mule is that you do get locked in place while using your hurricane skill, but nonetheless it has great mobility, it has great movement, and it has a lot of short cooldown skills that do a ton of damage, which makes flying through all your bosses extremely easy week after week. Moving on from the archers, we're going to talk about Dark Knight. Dark Knight is one of those classes that doesn't really have a 2-minute burst, it doesn't really have a 3-minute burst, but it has a ton of short cooldown bursts, which makes this class extremely good as a boss mule. You pretty much can just go from boss to boss and you're always going to have your burst skills up. The cooldown on this class is very short. This class does benefit from a cooldown hat, but it's absolutely not necessary, but it will give you a ton of quality of life and it will help with damage output while bossing on this class. And last but not least, a class similar to Dark Knight is going to be Dual Blade. Dual Blade is a class that has a ton of short cooldowns. The nodes are not extremely difficult on this class as well, but it does a ton of damage and makes flying through bosses very easy every single week. This class does have a little bit of a learning curve to it, where it isn't as simple as some of the other mules that we talked about on this list, where you just buff up and use your burst skill. The same thing with Dark Knight as well. There is a little bit of a learning curve to these classes, but nonetheless they are extremely good, and these are classes that you absolutely need to have on this list. Those are the top 10 absolutely must-haves on your bossy mule list. Now, I only put 10 bossy mules on this list because the other few you can make whichever ones you want to. You can experiment with different classes, you can try out new things, but I absolutely do recommend having these top 10 on your bossy mule list for sure. We always push, play what you want, have fun with the game, but the one thing with boss mules is that you want to get on and get off of them as soon as possible, and you don't want to make a class that you might like and then you end up making it and it does 0 damage and you feel like you're having to overfund it way too much and it's extremely inefficient, and then you just don't enjoy playing it. A lot of people make that mistake when playing boss mules, and that's why this video was created, is to give you guys a top 10 list of mules that you should absolutely create, and then give you a little bit of variety for the last few that you decide to make. But with that being said, guys, that is going to wrap it up for the top 10 best boss mules that you absolutely need to make. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and as always, if you think I forgot something or if you think something should be added, please let us know in the comment section below. But until next time, I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.